development. Former Prime Minister David Cameron has returned to the British government, this time as Foreign Secretary. This on a day when Prime Minister Rishi Sunak sacked Home Secretary Suella Braverman and shook up his top team ahead of next year's general election. Firebrand Interior Minister Suella Braverman was axed after critics accused her of stoking fresh tensions during weeks of contentious pro-Palestinian demonstrations and counter-protests in Britain. She has been replaced with James Cleverly, who is the Foreign Secretary. The changes are part of Rishi Sunak's first major reshuffle of his top minister since becoming Prime Minister in October last year. The Conservatives, in power for nearly 14 years, have said these changes will strengthen Sunak's team to deliver long-term decisions for a brighter future. Let's first talk about Suella Braverman and why she lost her job. Braverman had stoked controversy throughout her tenure, taking a hardline stance on immigration, for instance, and regularly wading into culture war issues which are seen as dividing the electorate. But her position became increasingly untenable after last week, when she wrote an explosive newspaper article without Rishi Sunak's approval, accusing the police of bias towards left-wing causes. The article was blamed for stoking tensions ahead of a weekend of protests calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, which coincided with Armistice Day events and prompted calls for her sacking. Critics said her comments had encouraged far-right protesters to hold counter-demonstrations on the sidelines of the main march on Saturday that resulted in dozens of arrests. Downing Street launched an investigation into how this article was published without its consent, as required by the ministerial code. Braverman's comments were also viewed as an attempt to position herself as a future leader of the Tories. Braverman had earlier described the rallies calling for a ceasefire in Gaza as hate marches, days after claiming that some people were homeless as a lifestyle choice. Widely seen as a right-winger, Suella Braverman has attacked her critics as liberal, tofu-eating vocarati. Shortly after she was appointed as Home Secretary, she had said that sending asylum seekers to Rwanda was her dream and obsession. Meanwhile, former Prime Minister David Cameron's unexpected return surprised even the most seasoned of British politics watchers and is being viewed as having been made with the next general election firmly in mind. The Tories have trailed the main Labour opposition by double-digit margins throughout Rishi Sunak's time in power and are widely tipped to lose the electoral context next year. Although he has a high profile and connections around the world, Cameron's appointment may not prove to be a vote winner. Polling in September showed 45% of British adults felt unfavourably towards him, while only around a quarter had a favourable view. Some observers say Sunak was possibly drawn to Cameron's clout on the international stage and that he hopes to appeal to increasingly dissatisfied centrist and centre-right voters. Some have gone as far as to say the move to bring back the former British Prime Minister is a desperate one. 57-year-old Cameron quit as Prime Minister in 2016 after losing the Brexit referendum. He stood down even as a Member of Parliament that year. He became mired in scandal in 2021 after lobbying the UK government for finance group Greensill Capital, which later collapsed, and the episode was seen as badly tarnishing his reputation. Cameron will be made a life peer in the House of Lords, Britain's upper chamber of Parliament. He said today he gladly accepted his new role as Britain faces a daunting set of international challenges. Cameron added, "While I have been out of frontline politics for the last 7 years, I hope that my experience as Conservative leader for 11 years and Prime Minister for 6 will assist me in helping the Prime Minister to meet these vital challenges."
It's been a huge privilege to serve as Foreign Secretary, and in that time I worked very closely with my colleagues in the Home Office, cracking down on illegal migration, reducing the number of small boat arrivals, and now as the Home Secretary I'm absolutely committed to stopping the boats as we promised, but also making sure that everybody in the UK feels safe and secure going about their daily business, knowing that the government is here to protect them. So it's a fantastic job and it's a real privilege to serve.
Well, David Cameron has captured global headlines today, and not without reason. Listen in to what he told Barun Das, the MD and CEO of TV9 Network, in an exclusive interview earlier.
Who is the real David Cameron?
Well, that's for other people to decide. But what I would say is I came along after the Conservative Party had lost 3 elections in a row. I modernised the party. I put it back in touch with people. I managed to get new candidates, new energy, addressed issues like climate change, and managed to win the election in 2010 and then again in 2015. And our government, I think, did a lot of very good things for our country. And the legacy of those, particularly on things like climate, on getting the deficit down, getting the economy growing, promoting tech, all those things are still there. Obviously, the Brexit decision was a very important decision. We were trying to deal with an issue that I think had to be confronted. I obviously regret the result of it. I wish my side of the referendum had won.
If you want to get Britain out of ever closer union, if you want fairness between those in the euro and those out of the euro, and you want a more competitive and successful Europe, let's fight this together.
I made a promise of holding a referendum. We kept that promise, and the British people gave the answer that they wanted, and that's been delivered.
Yes, we would discuss about Brexit, obviously, a little later. But what we wanted to start off with, to know about what you think of yourself. Who's David Cameron? I mean, obviously, we know how we get reflected by outside people, the audience, etc. But who do you think you are?
Well, I always describe myself as a modern, compassionate conservative. Modern because conservatives shouldn't be just about conserving what we have. We have to be looking forward, addressing modern challenges. Compassionate because my political philosophy is about helping everyone, particularly those who are left behind, who don't have the best life chances. But conservative because I think there are great things about our countries, whether we're in India or in the United Kingdom, that we should, institutions and things that we should want to promote and to keep, and using conservative methods, choice, competition, openness, these are things. So that's the sort of conservative I am, and I remain. Obviously, it's been more challenging, I think, in the Donald Trump populist world that we live in to hold by those values and that political approach, but I think it's more necessary than ever.
You are an Indophile. That's what we would like to think.
Very much so. I mean, when I became leader of the Conservative Party back in 2005, the first big country outside Europe I visited was India as leader of the opposition. And when I became Prime Minister in 2010, the first big country I visited outside Europe was again India. I came back and back and back because I'm a big believer in this partnership.
Absolutely.
David Cameron making his big political comeback in British politics. All right, that's all the time we have on this edition of Global Lens. If you have been, thanks so much for watching. Do join us again at the same time tomorrow.